Alright, welcome guys. Sorry I couldn't be here today. So what I did want to do is go through a quick overview of Microsoft Excel with you. So we're going to go ahead and get started by going to our Start menu. I have Excel right here in the recently used programs, but if you cannot find it, just type in Microsoft and you should be able to find Microsoft Excel pretty easily. If not, type in Excel, E-X-C-E-L, and you should be able to launch that program. Now, when we get started, we kind of see that it just looks like a giant, grid, almost like, graph paper, and so you see it and you're not necessarily sure what to do. Now, the first thing that we need to realize is that these boxes, as I kind of click on different ones, these are called cells. You might want to call them boxes at the beginning, but sooner or later you're going to really get the hang of referring to them as cells. Now, also you'll notice that the columns, each of these are columns, they are labeled with letters A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way to Z and beyond Z. You could see that, depending on how large your spreadsheet is, you can have a lot of different combos. Okay, now moving this back over here, if we look at our rows, which are the numbers, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to a lot. Now I'm not going to waste your time and go as far as it goes, but it goes for a while. If you really want to know the end of it, you could spend a whole 30 seconds, holding the down arrow or holding the right arrow and trying to find the end. I believe if you hold Control and use the right arrow, you could get to the last column, which is XFD, and Control down will bring you to the last cell. So we just found the end. So if you were wondering, sorry, spoiler alert, I showed you what it is. Now back up to the beginning, we have our cells here. Now if I were to ask you, what is this cell called? Some of you notice that the G is highlighted and so is the 13. So this cell would be titled cell G13. Now another place to find that is over here, and this is called the name box. So as I click around, you could see K9, F7, D8, Q13, O4. It's pretty easy to tell which cell I'm exactly talking about in the name box right over here. Now, if you were to start typing in the first cell, let's say we were making a grade spreadsheet. Okay, and if I were to ask you, is there typing within cell B1, most of you would probably say yes. If I were to ask you, is there typing in cell A1, most of you would also say yes. Except, truthfully, there is nothing that is typed in cell B1, and I'll prove it to you. One way we could tell is that in this, right here, this is your formula bar, there is no typing. So if I really wanted to check, I could type a few words inside of there, and you see that it cuts off everything that's typed in cell A1. Now, if I delete those words, it looks like there's words in cell B1, but realistically there's nothing inside cell B1. If I click in cell A1, you see that that's where the grade spreadsheet, the title, exists. So in order to make sure that that's not confusing, what we need to do is we need to stretch out the A column, and we could do that by moving our cursor right in between cell A and B and just click and drag and spread that out. Okay, now something else that's kind of nice is if you put your cursor in between cell A and cell B and you double click, it will automatically fit to whatever your largest cell is, or your widest cell. So I'm going to put in a couple subjects here: math, science, social studies, PE, PE. I could click up here in the formula bar to type. I could just type right in the cell. I'm going to add math, science, social studies, PE, English. And then over here, what I want to do is I want to start to add in some extra stuff. So over here, I'm going to change this. I could either double click to change what's in that cell, or if I wanted to, I could click and change up here. What I actually want to do is I want to insert a cell. So in order to insert a cell, all I do is right click and I'm going to insert right above there. So right here I want to put subject. Over here I'm going to put grade. Maybe over here I'm going to put teacher. And I'm going to start to make my own spreadsheet. So over here math, right now I have a B in math. In science I have an A. Social studies I have an A. PE I have a B. English I have a B. And my favorite subject, forgot to add there, in business I have an A+. Now my teacher is Mr. Jennings. Science, Miss Smith. Social studies I have Mr. Kirby. PE I have Miss Muscles. English I have Mr. Wright. And business I have Mr. Marks. Now I have all these teachers. Now remember, in order to stretch out that column, I could either actually click and stretch it out, or I can double click and it will automatically fit. Okay, so now that I have that, looks pretty good. In order to make the title stand out, maybe I want to bold it, or I want to underline it. Okay, but see what happens. It extended a little bit into the B column, so maybe I want to autofit one more time. Now let's say I wanted to center these. I could click and highlight more than one cell at a time, and I can go ahead and center that. Also, I can fill the cell with a color, so I'm going to put in some Hoffman colors here, maybe orange and blue, and then maybe I'll put orange over here. So I have those colors. Now maybe I want to change the text color, so I'm going to change that. I'll make this blue. Make this blue. Maybe I want to make this orange actually. So I change all that. Looks good. If I wanted to bold it or maybe change the font, we could do that all in our font group on the home tab. There we go. Bold. And once again, you might need to autofit a couple times just to make sure everything fits within the cells. Now that I have this, I can go ahead and I can use my fill color. Maybe I want to add a couple colors here. Fill them in. And then also I'll fill in just a different color. Maybe I'll put in a lighter blue. There we go. And so now I've filled in that. So we've officially made our first little spreadsheet. Okay, so as soon as this video is over, I'm going to ask you to make something similar to this. Okay, if you want, go ahead, log on to Infinite Campus, check your grades, okay, and make sure you write this in. Alright, this is a good way to check your grades on Infinite Campus, make sure you're doing everything well, so you can know what grades you might have to pick up, you can know how you're doing in all of your classes, and also it's a great way to practice Excel. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do this. Now let's say you accidentally make a typo. There is still the undo button, which is very helpful. Also, if you type something in the wrong cell, if you're really upset and you don't want to have to retype it, if you type something over here, like if I added one more class, let's add lunch, everyone's favorite subject. If I typed it over here and I really meant to put it over here, instead of retyping it, I could always put my cursor right on this bold outline, and I could click and I could drag that wherever it needs to go. So I could add that in there. Alright? Which is kind of nice. So I could go ahead and add that. Now also, let's say that you go too close to the too close to, the end of your spreadsheet, you could highlight more than one cell and you could move it to a different area on your spreadsheet. Okay, now I'm going to hit undo because I want it up in the left corner. Looks good. Maybe I'll bold it, change my font. You could always center it. If your cells are a little bit taller, you could choose whether you want it to be in the middle or at the top of your cell. So this is your alignment. Okay, so you're definitely going to want to mess around with that a little bit. For my cell height, it doesn't matter too much, so I'm just going to leave it where it is. I'm going to maybe, like I said, change the font a little bit. I'm going to keep this on the left side. I'm going to put that in the middle, and I'm going to put these on the right side, so everything's nice and lined up. Okay, and if you don't want something, you could always click backspace. If maybe you use the wrong color and it looks, you could obviously fix the color, or if you accidentally filled it and you don't want it to be filled, instead of using the white where it might leave those grid lines out of there, you can go to the no fill option, which is a better alternative because it will put those gray grid lines back in. So I want to go ahead and put that color back. Where is it? I used that one. Alright, so I've gone ahead and put in my schedule. Alright, I'm going to wrap up this video right about here. I showed you some of the basics just on the home row. Okay, we're not getting into styles or inserting or deleting cells yet, any of the editing, but I want you to look at your font group. I want you to look at the alignment. I want you practicing resizing cells, your columns. You can resize your rows as well. Maybe you want to stretch it out a little bit, make it look a little bit larger. You can, edit all of those. Now, one thing you'll notice is that you can shrink numbers accidentally, so it jumps from 5 to 7. And sometimes if you do that, it's hard to get your 6 back. So make sure that you do not disappear any of your rows, because that might cause you a little bit of trouble. Alright, now for me, I like mine nice and neat, just like that. I hit undo, everything looks pretty good. Last thing I do want to show you before this video is over is if you wanted to add a border, you could add some borders to your cells. Just like we learned in Word, we use that double bottom border. Okay, so you could add some grid lines if you want. Okay, that's where I'm going to cut off this video. Make sure to make a grade spreadsheet for your classes. Include all your classes. I'll give you an A in lunch if you want to include that. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more. Alright, best of luck today. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.